Yeah. Exactly. All right. And let me stop. Let me just stop sharing real quick. I think I'm okay. I think it's just the room that's seeing it. Okay.
Yeah, I can see the recording. So again, good evening. I'm Nick D'Ambrosio, the principal at ACE, which is the school located on 36th Street across from Roosevelt Park. I was a fairly regular participant at meetings when the school, after renovations and reopened in 2018, that was my first year as principal. And then COVID hit and we went virtual. Basically for a whole year. And I think this is my first meeting back since then. So it has been a while. Thank you, but it has been a while. And I do apologize for not being more in front of the community like I was previously. But it's, my commitment to resume regular attendance so I can just give folks an update on all the things that are happening at our school. So if you don't know, if you have heard this already, my apologies, but just give everyone a quick overview. We are a school that serves students in middle and high school, so grades 6 through 12. This year, we occupy the entire building. We used to share the building with a small charter school, but now it's a 4-level building. Now we occupy all 4 levels, and we are at an enrollment of about 880 students. When we reopened in 2018, we were at about 450 students. So we pretty much doubled in size over the last 4 years. Which is a good thing, right? It means that it's become a very interesting and valuable option for city schools families. And so we're excited and we're proud of that growth. But I will say we're probably at our max. We filled every classroom and we don't have huge class sizes. In some grade levels we do, but not all. But we do fill all classrooms at this point, and 800 to 900 students seems to be kind of our sweet spot. We don't intend on growing beyond where we are right now. Like I said, we serve students in grades 6 through 12. If you're not aware, Baltimore City Schools offers basically open enrollment for high school in particular. So every 8th grader has to apply to any of the city public schools. Some schools require an entrance criteria, so they'll look at grades, they'll look at test scores. Those would be schools like City and Poly and Western and Dunbar and a few others. We are not one of those schools. So we are a school that is open to any and all students who apply and put us as their top choice. And like I said, we've grown a lot, so that's a good thing. We actually have a waiting list and have the last few years. So that's a good sign. We've had a lot of success in 5 years with not just the enrollment growth, but improved attendance, improved academic outcomes for students. We've grown our athletics and extracurriculars. And this year we're having a fantastic year when it comes to college acceptances and scholarships. So we have a senior class of 150 students. We have well over 100 college acceptances at this point. We have 4 notable ones would be 4 students who've been accepted to Johns Hopkins University. And if you're a Baltimore City student, that comes with free tuition. So 4 students going to Johns Hopkins on scholarship next year. And this is the first year, I believe, in our school history, we have a student that will be attending an Ivy League school. So we have a senior that's been accepted and has a full scholarship to Princeton University. So we are not just a college readiness school, though. So we try to give our students exposure to different career fields, trade programs, military, and things like that. So, it's in our name, the Academy for College and Career Exploration, and that's what we do. We give our students exposure to the different options that are available after high school, and we work with them closely to develop a post-secondary plan. So all of our students create their own individualized plan, and it starts when they enter school and it gets revised and refined over the years. And the goal is that every senior graduates with their next steps already crafted out and they're ready to go. So there isn't this period of time where they're still unsure about what they want to do, because that's when we notice students really kind of fall off, right? Oh, I'll go to college, we'll take a gap year. That's been like the thing lately. And we're not a huge fan of the gap year. We want to know we want to make sure you have a plan, whether it's college or not. And we want you to be successful on the trajectory to being successful. So yeah, we've had a lot of success, but I also know that, internally, we certainly have our challenges, and we know that within the community, our students, for the most part, again, 900 students, 875 of them do what they're supposed to do, but we certainly have our handful of students who make poor choices. So we have experience. I know the community's experienced an increase in foot traffic before and after school, and then car traffic, particularly on 36th Street, around 8 o'clock and then around 3 p.m. can be a real challenge. And so, we want to be good neighbors. We want to be available and responsive to any concerns that come up. And so I do have my personal information here to share with folks in the room. Can I type in the chat? Just drop my direct cell phone number. I'll put in the chat so you can call or text. If you are having any kind of difficulties that may be related to our school. We love to hear the good things too. So if you are having positive experiences, please feel free to share that as well. I was able to attend virtually the safety meeting that took place, I believe it was a week ago, on a Saturday. And I heard from the city council and the Baltimore Police Department with updates on some of the recent incidences at Roosevelt Park. And, just to reiterate, the shooters in those cases were not students at our school. However, we have students at the park frequently. I'm not going to say that we don't, because we do. And one of the things that we do to try and alleviate that is, or something we've been doing more recently, is having our staff go out and just do a walk around the park, make sure there aren't students there, particularly during school hours, that they're in the building where they belong, getting their education. I've coordinated with the Hampden Christian School to coordinate our kind of walks around the park at the same time that the little ones are out for recess. So we're hopeful that just creates more of a safe environment for everybody. We have a large staff, and we have a large non-teaching staff. So we do have the folks who are available to do that, to leave the building, to go walk through the neighborhood, to be responsive if something does come up. So we actually have our own police officers. We have 2 police officers that are full-time at our school. So it's an interesting thing. City Schools has its own police department. So they're not BPD, but they train alongside BPD, and they have all the policing power that comes with it. But their jurisdiction only goes so far. They're not really able to intervene with matters off campus that are not student related. But in addition to that, we have a large administrative team, one of 5 administrators, and we have a team of I think it's 13 at this point. So these are folks that are called our climate team. So we view them as mentors. They don't have any teaching responsibilities, but they do kind of work the hallways and the stairwells and the cafeteria and entry and exit. They're extra set of hands. And like I said, they really are mentors that get to know the students, particularly the students that we struggle with just engaging, properly and help them make the right decisions that they need to make to be successful. And so and that's a team. We've always had a climate team, but always about 5 or 6 individuals. Like I said, we're about 13 or 14 now. And that, we're fortunate to have satisfactory school funding, and school funding is just continuing to increase. If you're familiar, if you follow what's called the Kerwin Commission, there's been an significant increase in, tax dollars going directly to schools for things like staffing and programming and materials. And we just received our budget for the upcoming school year, the 23-24 school year, and we're looking at another, $1.6 million increase from where we are now. So we'll be able to, it's great. We'll be able to sustain our current staffing and even add some additional positions. So we have plenty of folks on staff that are in the positions to help our students as best as possible. And we know that means, extending ourselves into the community as necessary. You probably have seen a lot of staff at the end of the day, particularly the corner of 36 and Falls Road. That's a major bus stop. It's the 94 bus stop in front of 7-Eleven. A lot of our students rely on that transportation. We also have MTA buses that come into our school loop, which does create a traffic problem, but it cuts significantly the foot traffic to get to the 22 and the 21 bus stops. One is by the Domino's on Falls Road, and I think it's 41st. And the other would be going east on 36 by the Royal Farms there. And so we used to have a lot of light rail riders, but that has changed quite a bit. So I don't think we have a ton of students taking the light rail at this point. So the majority of our students, when they're in the community, coming to and from school are going to those locations.
So any questions for Principal D? Just taking a quick look at the meeting chat.
Please.
Yeah, and would you share your name, please?
Debbie Nickerson,
Great.
and this is my friend Donna. We're both coming here, we're representing sort of Berry Street.
Yes.
And we do have an issue. We thought we had resolved this like last year and the beginning of this year. But apparently it's not. The kids, the track team, they're
Yes.
using our street to run up and down, and I'm trying to work with Pierre Sanders, asking why.
Here's online, just so you know.
Okay, well, he didn't answer my last email, and I'm very upset with him, and I'm trying to find out, and I'm not the only one, it's the whole Berry Street. Why are they running in the middle of the street?
Yeah.
Which they shouldn't be running in the middle of the street.
Principal D, would you
Sure.
repeat for folks online, what the question is?
Yep. So the question or the concern is students using, it's our track team, as you indicated, using Berry Street for training and for practices.
Yeah, in the middle of the road.
So,
There was a teacher. Coach had a chair. They're sitting in the street telling them to go. Street is very, very dangerous. Cars come from everywhere. They just fly up and down. I don't walk across my own street without making sure there ain't anybody coming up their street speeding. And me and Pierre discussed this back in My House. Discussed this back, I think around October. And he said, would it be acceptable if they ran across the street on the sidewalk? I said,
On the school side.
on the school, I
Mhm.
said, school, you gotta hold the school
yes.
circumference here. So when I told him what happened the other day, he kind of like rushed, he forgot about the part that we discussed running on the side of the street. Instead of, he told me he didn't see what the problem was on running the street. That's why the coach and this other person was out there watching to see if any traffic was coming. That's not what they were doing. So
Thanks for sharing your concern.
Yeah, I can, so the why is, why are we in the middle of the street running? Or why are we on Berry Street at all when we have our school and then the park across the street? So the advantage of using that space is that it's a hill, right? There's an incline, and that is kind of a strategic training method, right? To be able to run those inclines, build up their capacity and their fitness level and things like that. So that exists, or that's the why, right? It's certainly not to be a nuisance or be problematic, but it's a nice area to train in an area where we don't have a ton of incline like that. We certainly don't have it in our school, and the park doesn't offer that. As far as the student safety is concerned, when this has come up in the past, I coordinated with our coaches to make sure that we have spotters, right? That we're making sure that we're not interfering with traffic and things like that.
I don't think, I guess nobody understands her.
It's not that.
It's. They shouldn't be in the street. You got a whole school, multi-million-dollar complex there. And you're running.
And like, wouldn't they have 2 sets of steps on either
Yeah,
side?
why can't they run
So
up the
wouldn't
steps?
that be like stamina? And then in the back, there's like a step incline, and then if they run down in front of the school that way, it goes right down to a hill. So I mean, if you want them running out there and dodging cars and everything, maybe they should be running down the school.
Okay.
Just saying, I mean, they are really running in the middle of the road.
So thanks so much for voicing your concern. It'd be great to have your names and contact information just to make sure that we're closing the loop. I know that you've had a conversation with Pierre in the past.
And just the other day.
Sure. So let's make sure before the meeting ends, we have your contact information so we can resolve this offline.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
Any other questions for Principal D? Yes, please. And would you share your name?
My name is Leanne Blanchard. I had contacted ACE months ago about an internship program.
Okay.
Did not get any response at all from anyone that I contacted there. I called several times, also emailed who I thought was the appropriate contact, but never got a response. So I then turned to city schools for their work-based learning program, the district level one. And they said that you guys run your own. But I was unable to get an intern for this year, and I'm still interested in getting an intern. So can you put me in contact with the right person?
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here is just to kind of reopen the lines of communication. So if you are trying to get in touch with the school and you're not getting a response, this has my direct cell phone on it. I hope it's not too much of an ask, but really a text message like, hey, this is who I am, this is what I need, will be the best way. So, you know, keep track of what the requests are and what the offers are and the supports and things like that. Just and same thing, like, you know, I apologize that we're continuing to have kind of this rub. But if you reach out to me directly, I'll try to be a solution finder. Yeah.
Yeah, like, very basic, I mean.
Yes.
I would street is really.
Thanks so much for coming. I would say in terms
Board
of
of Education, supervisors. The athletic department, we've been told they are not, and they were supposed to get in touch with the school, and they said they should not be running in the streets.
So in terms of the time that we have,
Yes.
I would say we want to make sure we get to other topics. So if you would join me in thanking Principal D for
Sure.
his time. I know he starts his day very early, so his commitment to being here in person is deeply appreciated.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the time and
Thank you.
look forward to staying connected. So I'm gonna walk around and pass these out. So
Thank you so much. Great. All right. Thanks, everybody. Oh, looks like we have some folks that we should let in. All right. All right. So our next topic is about, let me just bring up the slides real quick.
Have a good night, folks.
All right.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much. All right, thanks for bearing with me as I. Okay, so wanted to give you an overview of a bit of a sense of what's happening across Hampden right now. So you'll note that there are two icons for zoning and land use. We'll get an update on that in just a bit. There's a very active liquor license case. This is the one that's 4001 Falls Road. We have an update on that. But I wanted to start us off with the safety conversation that has really blossomed in the last month. So let's start with that. So I think folks are aware that there were 2 gun incidents. Oh, sorry. Let me make sure I'm sharing my screen for folks online. Folks here can see, but that's not good enough. All right. So sharing my screen. Okay, so let me just go back for a second. So in terms of what's happening in Hampden, here's kind of a bird's eye view of what's happening where. We're going to focus our conversation for the next few minutes on this safety issue regarding Roosevelt Park. So just to recap for those who were not able to be at the meeting last Saturday, there have been 2 gun incidents at Roosevelt Park in the last month. The first one, bless you, was January 24th. This was across adults, so there was an arrest made, and this was in the gym at the rec center. The second incident was behind the skate park. As far as I know, and we'll be interested in an update on this from Councilman Torrance, but as far as we know, we're still at the stage where there are 2 persons of interest. And because this is an ongoing investigation, we can't really say definitively what it's about, right? because it could change as new information comes forward. But there's the sense that this is drug related and across three individuals. So as Principal D shared earlier, this was the folks with guns were not ACE students. And the conflict was between individuals that were known to one another. This was not random violence of, somebody just in a car shooting out the window, nor was this a robbery. This was really conflicts between individuals. So that's the kind of basic facts. At our meeting, we heard from Baltimore City Police Department Captain Bennett. He shared that there had already been an increased presence in terms of who's around the skate park in particular, but the park in general. We spoke to Ms. Amara Hill, who is the director at the rec center. She shared that there's no longer drop-in available at the rec center. If you want to be inside, you need to be registered ahead of time for one of the programs that is there. So that's there are pros and cons to that, right? Because folks that are there will feel more safe. There's a sense of control of who's there. But then also that provides few opportunities for some folks. And so that means that perhaps more people will be in the park because they're not necessarily at the rec center. We don't know that for certain, right? People could find other places to be. But just, noting the implications of some of these choices. And we do want to thank Principal D again for the timing the sweeps of the students in the park with the Hampden Christian School use of the park. So that I would say one of the positive things that has come out of these recent incidents is that some relationships, we've kind of dusted off the relationships and renewed connections across institutions. So that's one thing that I'm grateful for, including the connection between Administrator Hirschberger and Principal D. We heard during the meeting that the police will now have one officer per shift that they will call in from the park. So that's a commitment he made to us at this time. I don't have confirmation that that's happening, but that was his commitment to us at this time. And Councilman Torrance agreed to ask the sheriff, it's now last week, for reinforcements for staffing in the park as well. There's a really lively conversation, and I did want to bring to folks' attention some additional actions that we could choose to take together. So there are kind of four main actions. The first one, and this is where kind of the majority of the focus is around activating the space. So being more in the park. That's what we mean by that, with quote unquote presence. So presence doesn't necessarily mean cops, right? It could mean, folks from the rec center. It could mean adult presence. It could mean park rangers. So activating the space with presence. So those two together. So specifically, we could, and this is something that after the meeting, I spoke to both council members were encouraging us to look at a campaign soliciting, sending emails to the Rec and Parks director, asking for the number of park rangers to be doubled. So right now they're hiring, I believe they're in the process of hiring 5 park rangers that will serve parks across Baltimore. And so the ask, so after talking about this, the ask is really to ask the director to double that number. Okay, so that's one. Councilman Torrance talked about doing a survey to users of the park. What would you like to see here in terms of other activities? We've talked for the last year about potentially a music series in the park, getting some bands out there, again, just having more people out and about. There's a conversation about partnering with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, MONS. I looked at some of their programs. It's not clear to me what would be the right fit for us. So I put a little question mark here because I feel like that's not an actionable item yet. That's something that we could look into. All right, so that's all under activate the space with presence. There's also clean the space. So Councilman Torrance talked about some graffiti cleaning in March. I don't have the date for that. I believe it was Blaze Ahern who was here in the back and said, yep, I'll help organize a cleanup. I reached out to him today about timing. He's thinking end of March or end of April. So it could be around Earth Day, something like that. So we're happy to coordinate with him to make that happen. Another conversation that I found particularly interesting was the idea of the conflicts that were happening were between individuals and it escalated to violence. And so what would it look like if we had within our community more awareness of the skills of conflict mediation, conflict resolution, so that things don't escalate to that level. So this would be a matter of us not necessarily saying those people over there, they need conflict resolution skills, but really saying within our own communities. So within, the faith communities here, within Hampden, maybe at the school, different points of connection. Are there individuals who are willing to say, yes, let's get, folks here? Are there people here that would be interested in taking a training and then being able to share some of those skills and knowledge with other people? So basically kind of growing this outward from hubs. So I find that pretty interesting. So if there's anybody that's interested in pursuing that, I'd love to talk with you. And then last but not least, the fourth action is perhaps less forward-looking in terms of what we can do in a preventative measure, but it's an option. And I recognize that Mr. Wharton is here from State's Attorney's Office. We have the option to send impact statements after, and the timing of this is not totally clear to me, but the idea of, yes, thanks, Kathy, for sharing that about Parks and Rec has a program. Yeah, I think that's definitely an opportunity too. So Mr. Wharton is the individual that we would turn in the impact statements to. So the idea is that Hampden Community Council would gather them from any interested residents or businesses, basically saying, this is how I was personally, my family, my business, my, et cetera, your connection was impacted by the gun violence that was here, the gun incidents. And this is what we would like you to do in terms of this considerations for the sentencing of individuals involved. So that's a little bit further down the line. Mr. Worm, would you like to come off mute and share anything about that? I have not done this process before, and I know that you're way more familiar with this than I am.
Sure. Thank you, Christina. Yes, community impact statements are very important when it comes to the trials of suspects who were caught in crimes. And the reason why I say that is because judges only hear what the defense attorney is saying and what the prosecutor is saying in the case, and judges love to hear what the community is saying, how the particular crime affected the community, how it affected the residents, how it affected the business, the church, the school, like any entity in that area, how it affected them and what they want to see done in that case. If they want to see the book thrown at the person, if they want to see the person go through diversion activities, if they want to see the person, possibly one day get some type of training, job training, however they feel, please put it in that impact statement. And what happens is, it doesn't matter how many impact statements the ASA will have, the assistant state's attorney will have for that case, they'll read each one in that case. So the judge can hear exactly what the community is saying. And then the judge not only has what the defense attorney is saying and what there's, and what they want for their client, what the prosecution is saying and what they want for the defendant, but also what the community is saying. And a lot of times that what the community is saying will take a will affect how the judge will rule in that case. So impact statements are very important, and we like to push them. So if you have any impact statements, you want to give impact statements, I will let Christina know. Long as I just need to know when the crime was done, who was the suspect that was caught, so I can file the case. And then when the actual trial comes up, I'll make sure that the ASA has those impact statements for to be read in court. And I can find out about the suspect from either Captain Bennett or Major Johnson.
Excellent. Thanks so much for being a resource. You're here just at the right time. I appreciate that. So
No
I'd
problem.
like to open it up to folks here. So folks online, if you would kindly type in the meeting chat, if somebody would like to come off of mute and share, or folks here in the meeting. Yeah, could you share your name? And I'm going to actually turn the camera so folks can see who's speaking.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Mike Quinlan. I'm actually in the park 4 times a day because I live across the street from the park. I think the kids from the high school, aside from your issue, they seem to be dynamite individuals trying to get on with their lives, and it's nice to have them. Do they smoke weed in front of the building in the morning? Back behind the rec center, 100%. There's no doubt about that, right? But I've never seen them get lippy at all. They do their thing. I love it when they're in the park. It's great to see the activity. The issue for my safety at the park now, we know it's the individuals who refuse to leave. The park should be sacrosanct. We should not be allowing people to set up homes there and shoot drugs.
Right.
I'm guessing, young lady, you're from the school. It's quite frankly alarming to me because I've seen this gentleman get violent with the people that he's with. And I'm going on, hey, how you doing, Councilman Torrance? I'll see you at 9:30 on Wednesday. This guy is violent. This guy is erratic. He does not need to be near our playground. We do not need to let him be teed up. What happens when he goes off and you can't stop him? What happens then, right? It's garbage. And I got threatened last week with murder by somebody else who wanted to have their tent by our house. They're literally on top of our homes at night, heckling us.
I'm so sorry to hear
Well,
that.
this is, I appreciate that. I really do. They're heckling us.
Recently,
The
right?
one, no, it's been like 3 years. If you go to the back corner of that park down by our house, the tent left, Councilman Torrance. I'm not sure how it left, but it left.
That's
If
it,
you
by the
go into the
baseball
corner, there's all the needles, there's all the human feces, there's all the stuff that they sleep on. They're putting down tiles now so that they don't have to be on the ground. It's unsafe. The guy that lives at the end of our block is scared that his home's going to be invaded. And what we get is we're working with them. The park sacrosanct, the sign says dark to dusk, it's closed. End of story. That's just the way it's got to be. It's alarming to have to deal with this. I have a 15-year-old dog, and at night we have to take him out at 4:30. My wife and I have to go out together because I'm afraid that, and on top of that, the crime rate is going up. The people that own the business at the end of our street, her car got broken into twice, 2 nights in a row, same guys. And they're old-handed. We know who they are. They're old-handed. The lady that threatened to kill me, she's like, old-handed's going to come and get you. I've been in Hampden 25 years. I'm old-handed. So I'm just a little bit tired of being pushed around. The kids at the skate park, yeah, could they do better with the trash cans? Yeah, they could, right? They're not really good at using trash cans, but they're not the problem. They bring this energy, this life to the skate park. It's fabulous. And they're very respectful. They're great. They're hustling. They're having a great time. They're enjoying their lives. And it's great to go in the park and see that. It's the guys it's the old handed that takes advantage of us, and they know they can, and they have for years. And if they're going to threaten my safety, my wife's safety, and harangue us and heckle us from our homes, right next to the pool, right next to where this young lady takes her students out every day. And we just say, hey, you know what? The city went in and talked to him. You know what happened? The city went in and talked to him. You know what happened? The next day he had a bigger tent.
So
He
Mike,
got a secondary unit.
yeah. So Mike, thanks for your comments. It sounds like there's a couple of different things to follow up with. So we have the the car break-ins, which is something that I want to make sure that
My car's
was
been hit 7
reported.
times over the 25 years I've been here.
Yeah,
And then, but the lady at the end of the block, she just got it, I think it was
Yeah.
Thursday and Friday last week. They got her one night, came back and
And
peeked the window on the
do you
second.
know if those were reported to 311 or?
Of course they were. There's
Okay.
the pictures are all over. I told you,
Okay.
I'm sorry to bring the pictures. It's one
Yeah.
of the guys that lived down
Yeah.
there, probably.
So anybody else want to share thoughts on additional actions? Is there one of these that really resonates of the four? Or is there one that really resonates with you that you'd like to that you'd like yourself to contribute to? Do you have questions? What's on
Maybe
the?
Committee of survey for park activities.
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay, so
Do the-
lining up for, yeah.
I've just recently seen those tents there, but I don't think it's the same. I don't think it's the same.
They're new tents, yeah. Well,
They're not big. Big ones, big ago. The big one,
Yeah.
with the structure that he built, has been there for going on 2 months now. The one that was the back furniture, the one that was back by our homes is no longer there. It's no longer there.
yeah.
And to be honest with you, I'm not gonna allow that to happen. I'm not.
So-
I'm not gonna be.
So I
victimized.
do want to make sure that other folks have the ability to share. So we have some comments online. So Michael shares, we need to get the city to protect us. It's not our job to get creative about our basic safety. Whitney shares, what is the best way to follow up on commitments related to BPD, officer patrols, and request to the sheriff's department?
But also,
So hold on a second.
one last thing. This
Can you make it short? I just want to make sure there's
No,
equal
here-
time for folks.
It's all connected. We know that as soon as the summer comes, the circle is going to become an open air drug market like it is every summer. Every summer, that circle right by the, look at his face. Look at how disappointed she is that we don't protect her children. That she has
So,
to teach.
all
It's an
right,
Open air
so,
drug market. And it's every year it becomes an open air drug market again. And everybody knows it. Everybody in Hampden knows it. If you're not, it's because you don't pay a lot of attention in the park. You don't live there. I'm sorry, I'm not trying. This is just enough. We know what the issues are.
Right.
Let's start dealing with it.
Okay, so we have Michael sharing online saying exactly. I want to follow up with so Blaze just came into the room. I'd like to provide opportunity for
Sorry. I didn't
Either-
take all the time.
No.
that's all right. I'm glad that you shared. Yeah, no, I'm glad you shared. So like to provide an opportunity for either of the council members or offices to share responses in terms of Whitney's question, what's the best way to follow up on commitments related to Baltimore Police Department officer patrols and requests to the Sheriff's Department? So Councilwoman Ramos, please.
Yeah, sure. I don't see Councilman Torrance on here, but I might not be able to see him.
I just
So, oh, okay, great. He's here. So, he can answer that as well. I know that his office and our office are working together. I mean, this is his side of the district. And I'm sure that, I know that we both, I mean, I talked to Sam the other day, Kogan, because I saw him in Annapolis. But, you can continue to email us, email the councilman, email my office, and, we'll continue to follow up. I don't know, Christina, whether you wanted all of the sort of updates from that meeting to go through you or how you wanted to do that. But certainly keep following up with us. And then I'll leave it to the councilman for the rest of it.
Yeah, Councilman Torrance, any particular updates that you wanted to offer? Less on the general, how does one follow up, and more specifically on Roosevelt Park, over?
So we began conversations with the sheriff's office about having an officer go between Druid Hill and Roosevelt Park at specific times where there is a presence. In addition to that, we're working with Muncie to deal with a number of young people at the skate park in terms of conflict management and having direct outreach to them. In addition to that, Rec and Parks has already started thinking about security measures it can take at the actual rec center. That's why they switched over to people having to sign up for an account to enter the rec center, so we know who is in and out of the buildings. In addition to that, we are working with Rec and Parks to do a clean sweep and working with the park manager on a cleanliness schedule as well. We do know that there's a number of things that are happening in the park, and then we're trying to do a number of harm reduction activities around the area. So, and then the Northern has given additional presence, where an officer is present at the park at certain times. Won't say those times, but an officer has been present each day since our meeting on our last meeting. So we're still working with that with the with both public safety areas. In addition to that, I did flag for Rec and Parks that we will be asking for additional park rangers, and that anything that they can do in terms of budget enhancements would be greatly recognized for the director.
And what would you say about break-ins to cars are not unusual in the city. I would say death threats or being kind of taunted by folks from the park. That sounds like a great conversation for follow-up one-on-one, because I think that
There's already a long, extensive email chain.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here.
Okay. All right. So happy to, I'm not in that particular email chain, so I'd be happy
To
to
be
get,
honest with you, I'd be happy to CC you. Why not?
yeah,
Mhm.
to get a sense of that.
Yeah. Working with, and that's the other thing, like we have a person that we're dealing with mental health persons in the park right now. Hopefully they're back. They were back out there today. Tomorrow, maybe we'll have agreement with the person to move. Especially since they're now attracting more tents into their area. So we're desperately trying to make sure we have some good rapport, but also a carrot to move them out of the park sooner than later.
So there's someone online, relatively new to Baltimore Hampden, so unaware of the history, has Mayor's Office on Homeless Services been engaged for those living in tents? The short answer is yes. The longer answer is for quite some time.
2 years, to be exact. 2 years, and as we're engaging them, we've gotten them to leave the park. But however, they're coming back because unfortunately they believe that if they are in a public place, if they were to overdose, someone would call 911, just to be transparent. So we're working with harm reduction persons to ensure that they aren't overdosing, but also looking to offer hotels once again and treatment. The 2 persons that we did get out of the park went to treatment and then left because they no longer wanted to be clean. So we are working with them again to remove them from the park.
So I do want to make sure that we get to some of the other topics. I am interested in pursuing things on the right-hand side of this. So if folks can let me know in the chat or connecting with me afterwards, we have to be good neighbors and leave before the library closes down. So help me in that, but I'd be happy to continue the conversation outside of this room. If you have interest in any of these, I would say particularly the email campaign about doubling the park rangers. That's something we could pull the trigger on. That's a terrible expression in this case, but that's something that we could move forward with really this week. And so I'd be happy to connect with folks about that.
Christina, can we give some context to that? I mean,
yes,
at the
please.
meeting we discussed that in the budget, there's only money for 5 park rangers for the entire city. And so that's not going to be enough because we have so many parks. And, you know, Councilman Torrance and I have big parks in our district. And so one of the advocacy points that we can really make a citywide is to double that number to 10, and that will help with making sure that all the parks get more coverage by rangers. So just to offer that context, I'm particularly interested in, you know, continuing to pursue that issue for many reasons. So just to provide some context.
Yeah, and I'm pleased that it would benefit not just us in Hampden, but it would actually be a benefit across the city, which is, you know, that's really positive. Okay, so if you'd allow me to fly through some updates before we're done here. All right, so I'll go top to bottom. So at the top, so the liquor license, for folks that are following this at 4001 Falls Road, this is the No Longer Karaoke Now restaurant. So we did have multiple meetings with the residents, proposed key elements of a memorandum of understanding. Wayne today, the proprietor of the restaurant got back to us that he is not interested in accepting our terms. And so we'll need to take action. So they're seeking to move forward with the liquor board as is. So we'll need to take, I think, pretty immediate action on that.
Yeah, so there's still an appeal. I appealed their decision there's an appeal there to have a reconsideration. The head of the liquor board said we'll try to go back and negotiate before we rule on the reconsideration. So the first step, they have to rule on the reconsideration. And if they go in our favor, then we will have to go back and renegotiate everything, and he's going to have to accept that. And if they don't, then they can move forward. So that is where we are. I am getting advice on the next steps, because they rejected all of the points. I mean, he didn't even go point by point. He just said no way.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so to me, that's not really negotiating in good faith. Whereas
exactly.
we did. I mean, we had one meeting with him, two without, to be able to,
Yeah.
I mean, we
Yeah.
narrowed it down pretty quickly with him to like 2 or 3 items.
Mhm.
And so that's unfortunate. So we will be back before the liquor board for the reconsideration. And that's where we are now.
Councilwoman, if you need a letter from HCC, I would be more than happy to do that. So just let's be in touch about that.
Is this an existing venue?
So you'll recognize it as behind Redfish Liquors. It's the garages. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so there's lots of feelings on that. Okay, so that's a quick update. The Clean and Green, so Dan is sharing in the chat. Clean and Green, folks that are interested in environmental issues, cleaning up the neighborhood, he'll convene a meeting tomorrow at Golden West at 7 p.m. So other brilliant ideas, anybody that wants to do what do you call it when you take scraps and save them and it's out of the composting? Thank you. It's like a game, that taboo game where you're like, what's that word? So meet Dan tomorrow, Golden West, 7 p.m. To talk about Clean and Green. Huge win. So now looking at the 3110 Elm. Huge win. The developer has walked away from the bookbindery proposed development. That is just huge congratulations to the residents who mobilized for that. Did want to share the latest. Kathleen is at a birthday party, so couldn't be here, but I understand that there was a meeting with the owner. There was a survey about what residents would like to do with that property. So what they would like to have done and what they would not like to have done with that property. Met with the owner Friday at 4. I understand it was a productive meeting, and that Councilwoman, I understand that you're going to follow up trying to find a developer that is kind of on the same page. Any other comments you'd like to make about that property?
Yeah, we met with it was the owner's family, not the owner himself.
Okay.
And the lawyer, and the community residents. So Kathleen is putting everything into a little one-pager, and we're just the lawyer and I are going to shop it around to others, because frankly, the owner of the building wants to sell the building and he doesn't want to be a developer himself. He is older. He wants his future to be stable in terms of financially. And, I respect that, right? So he wants to sell the building. And he wants he wants to be to make sure that he gets the full value for the building. And so the building is still protected at this moment, and will be protected for, well, let's see, the timeline for 6 months will start at our hearing, which is on March 14th is the hearing, the CHAP hearing, to determine the historical nature of the building. And then I would have to put in an ordinance in order to make it permanent. So they seemed very interested in a lot of the ideas that the residents had, which included, you know, sort of doing the same thing that is at the Mill Center right now. Some, you know, smaller scale apartments were going to be fine. I mean, I think the community really thought long and hard about lots of different options. And so that was good. Obviously, one of the biggest things is to save the chimney. And so anyway, so we're going to still be in touch and see. I've got developer friends that I'm going to be,
They're
you know, we
not-
have. Yeah,
Folks aren't
so we're-
aware what the chimney is.
Yes, the chimney at the
sure.
bookbindery has been there for, well, the whole building has been there for over 100 years. And these really special birds called chimney swifts have found their way every year, starting in April, so coming up soon, and through October, and they roost in the chimney, thus the name chimney swifts. And it would be almost impossible to recreate it elsewhere. It is part of their migratory pattern from Florida or Mexico all the way up as they fly north. And so, and then back down again. So it's a very special place for them and also for a lot of others. So anyway, we're still moving forward, but yeah, the developers have walked away. And then we have 2 other zoning items in the district as well.
Yeah, do you want to, I think we have just a few moments left. Do you want to hop in and share?
Just real quick,
Yep.
3818 Roland.
Mhm.
The hearing is March 21st to approve that as a permanent historic building. That was also initiative of the residents in that area. And that is a historic build. It's the big Victorian building there. That's historic for lots of reasons, but one of them is the original owner was a seamstress on the avenue, and she was one of the first women to ever buy property in the city. And that at the time in the 18 whatevers is certainly, you know, historic. And then the other one is the Wine Source parking lot. And that hearing is on the 28th of March. So we're moving forward on those.
Great. Yes, that's about parking. Great. Thanks so much, Councilwoman. Any other partners that would like to give updates in the, say, 3 minutes that we have left?
Christina, I do want to say that I can, and I put in the chat, but I can connect you to the Baltimore Community Mediation Center on Green Mountain 33rd. If you want to start the conflict resolution training and talk, they can actually do a training for you. They can do a group training. They can basically, you know, whatever you want to do with you and your residents and the businesses, they can actually set something up for you.
Yeah, that would be, I would definitely like to be connected to them. Councilman Torrance?
I know we all hate BG&E and the disruption in our streets. My office will be working with BG&E and DPW for a meeting where we discuss the repavement of your streets and have a schedule so that you are prepared for when you cannot park on your street. And we're repaving curb to curb on all the streets that we've disrupted, just to be clear, so that you guys are aware and that you know this disruption is coming, because March 15th is the moratorium on actually fully repaving. So we'll be able to pave again, and they'll have a schedule that they have to set up to do it.
Great. Yeah, it would be really helpful to have the list of when, who's getting paved when.
Yeah, we'll work together on that because it's the entire neighborhood. It's DPW and BGE. And I
yeah.
think where BGE only was, it's BGE. And then where it was DPW only, it's DPW. And I'm not quite sure how it works because they came into both places. It may be DPW, but it is curb to curb. It's not just like halfway anymore.
Great. Thanks to Blaze who put in the chat, Hampden Safety Alerts Group planning a April 22nd Earth Day clean sweep of Roosevelt Park. Donate your time and a little effort to help beautify Roosevelt Park. The jewel along the Jones Falls requires a little polishing from time to time to maintain its luster. Want to join forces with HCC, the Rec Center, merchants, and Hampden to establish the first annual Earth Day spring cleaning of Hampden. Great. So Blaze, if you and Dan can connect on that, that would be great. Is it the same? Great question, Kathy. Is it the same day as the mayor's cleanup? The mayor has not, to my knowledge, I checked this afternoon, announced the spring clean. So last year they announced on March 15th. So it's probably in the next next couple of weeks that we'll hear.
My suspicions is that it will be April 22nd.
You think it will be? Okay, great. Well, that would be very
I believe that
convenient.
is Earth Day.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be really convenient if that were true. All right. So I think with that, I think we should call it a wrap, and let our librarians close up shop here. Thanks so much for the active participation in the chat of folks sharing what they are willing to help out with. I think I got that list, so we'll be reaching out. I'm wishing you a wonderful start to March, and we'll be seeing you soon. Take good care. Yes, please. Could you share your name?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Hi, Lauren. Yes. So for folks online, folks are saying, how can we get the links for folks in the room? I don't know, but let's figure it out. So yes, sounds good.
I'm sorry, the links for what?
The links that I put in the chat. How can folks that participated in the room get those links?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the hearings coming up. People can contact me for those. Yeah, thanks.
Great. All right. All right. So wishing everybody a great evening. I'm going to stop recording and wrap up here. So take good care, everybody.
See you.
Bye.
If you share the link of what you just recorded, if the chat will come up inside that.